Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be taking a deep dive today
Yeah.
into something that I think a lot of you are
Thinking about.
thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Freelancing.
The freelance life?
The freelance life.
It's very appealing, right?
It is. And we've gotten a lot of really cool sources from you all. It seems like you've been looking into all the ins and outs, kind of good, the bad, the ugly, right?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. There's this vision, right, of freelancing that's very alluring.
Right.
Freedom, flexibility, but then there's the nitty-gritty reality
Absolutely.
of what it actually takes to make it work.
Yeah, and we have some really awesome sources here.
Yeah.
We have stuff from Work Notes, Double Your Freelancing, No Days, Medium,
Always a good one.
Garden Betty, Solid Gigs, Business.com.
Wow, that's quite a range.
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget that Reddit thread, always lively.
Always lively. You get all sides of the story there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get the unfiltered truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what we really want to do today is kind of like synthesize this all down,
Yeah.
really pull out the most important points so you can kind of figure out, hey, is this right for me?
Yeah. Is this something I actually want to pursue?
Right. Is this something that I want to pursue?
And if so, what do I need to know to
Exactly.
actually be successful at it?
What are the realities, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think there can be a gap, right, between that initial sort of
Absolutely.
dream of freelancing and then
And what it's actually like.
the day-to-day, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're here to bridge that gap.
Absolutely. So let's start with what makes freelancing so appealing, right? Like, why are people so drawn to it? What is it that kind of gets people hooked?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to this idea of flexibility,
Yeah.
right? Being your own boss, setting your own hours, working from anywhere.
The laptop on the beach?
Yeah, exactly. That's the image, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a deeper level to it, right? It's not just about working from the beach, but it's about the control, the autonomy,
Right.
choosing the projects you work on, the clients you work with.
And a lot of these sources talk about that, like even being able to really hone in on when you are most productive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So instead of having to adhere to like this really strict 9 to 5, you can kind of structure your day in a way that like works with your natural energy flow.
Yeah, yeah. And, you see this a lot in some of the productivity blogs we looked at, right?
Yeah.
Where people talk about, I'm a morning person or I'm a night owl, and I'm going to structure my day around that
Right. Exactly.
to maximize my productivity.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that's really drawing people in, right? It's like breaking free from the traditional 9 to 5 and actually taking control of their lives, their time, and their careers.
Absolutely. And the potential for higher earnings, right?
Yeah.
Setting your own rates.
Right. Exactly.
That's a big draw for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because a lot of these sources, they point to this rise of the gig economy, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a trend anymore. It's like this structural shift in the way work is being done.
Yeah, yeah. Companies are increasingly looking for specialized skills, right? For short-term projects.
Right.
And that's where freelancers come in.
They need that expertise.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't necessarily need a full-time employee.
Right.
So it's like this perfect match.
Yeah, and technology has obviously played a huge role in this, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the ability to work remotely, to collaborate with people all over the world.
Just exploded.
Yeah, it's made it so much easier to be a freelancer.
Right. So, I mean, when you combine all of these things, it's no wonder that freelancing is so appealing.
Yeah, it really does offer a lot of freedom and potential.
But, and this is a big but,
There's always a but, right?
there's always a but.
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and roses, is it?
Not exactly.
So let's talk about some of the challenges, some of the things that people really need to be aware of.
Yeah, I think the biggest one, and this comes up over and over again in the sources, is financial instability.
Right.
As a freelancer, you don't have that steady paycheck coming in every month.
Right.
Your income can fluctuate a lot.
Yeah. And, reading through some of the personal accounts, like on Reddit and Medium, that really hits home.
Right.
It's like the stress of not knowing when your next paycheck is coming.
Right.
And, not being able to plan.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a real challenge.
Absolutely.
And it requires a different mindset, right?
Totally different.
You need to be much more proactive about managing your finances.
Absolutely. And this is something that, like, Work Notes really emphasizes, right?
Yeah.
Is like, you need to have a financial cushion.
A safety net, yeah.
You need to be saving
Absolutely.
because you don't know what's coming down the pipeline.
Exactly. And, another thing to consider is that as a freelancer, you're responsible for all of your own benefits.
Oh, yeah.
Things like health insurance, retirement savings, paid time off.
Which, I mean, you don't really think about that when you're an employee, right?
No, it's all taken care of for you.
It's just there.
But as a freelancer, you have to factor all of that into your rates.
Right. So it's not just about like what you're making per hour. It's about
Yeah.
all of these additional costs.
Yeah, exactly. You have to think like a business owner.
Right.
You're not just selling your time, you're selling a service.
Right. And you have to cover all of your expenses.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think a lot of people, when they first start out, they don't really fully grasp.
No, they don't. And it can be a rude awakening for some people.
Right.
And on top of that, there's all the administrative work, right?
Gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Marketing, invoicing, chasing payments.
Right.
All the stuff that you don't have to deal with as an employee.
And I think that's where double your freelancing, that's one of their big points, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're not just freelancing, you're running a business.
Exactly. You're a one-person business.
Right. And you have to wear all the hats.
Absolutely. You're the CEO, you're the marketing department, you're the accountant.
Right. And you have to be good at all of it.
Or at least willing to learn, right?
Or at least willing to learn, exactly.
Because it's not always glamorous,
No, it's not.
but it's essential.
Absolutely. And then, on top of all of that, you need to be incredibly self-disciplined.
Oh, yeah. Self-motivation is key.
Yeah.
You don't have a boss breathing down your neck.
No deadlines, no one checking in.
Exactly. You have to be able to manage your own time, set your own goals, and stay motivated.
Right. And I think that's something that, nowadays really hammers home, right? It's like, this is not for everyone.
No, it's not. It takes a certain type of personality
Right.
to thrive in this environment.
To be able to, set those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of boundaries,
Oh, yeah.
another challenge is the potential for isolation.
Right.
You're working from home, you're not interacting with colleagues on a daily basis.
Yeah, it can be lonely.
It can be. And that's why networking is so important.
Right. Yeah.
Getting out there, meeting other freelancers, building relationships,
Right.
not just for business, but for your own sanity as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we see a lot of the Reddit threads, right?
Yeah.
It's like people are really craving that connection,
Yeah.
that sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
And, another thing that we have to talk about is dealing with clients.
Oh, yeah. Client management is a whole other skill set.
Right.
You're going to have good clients, and you're going to have bad clients.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you need to be prepared to handle both.
And that's something that, the Medium article really goes into, right?
Yeah.
It's like dealing with difficult clients, dealing with unpaid invoices, late payments.
Right.
It's not always easy.
No, it's not. And you don't have the same protections as you would as an employee.
Right, exactly. You're on your own.
Yeah. So you need to be assertive, you need to be professional, and you need to know your rights.
And you need to have good contracts.
Oh, absolutely. Contracts are crucial.
Yeah,
They protect both you and your client.
absolutely. And then, something that I think a lot of freelancers struggle with is burnout.
Oh, yeah. Burnout is a real risk,
Yeah,
especially when you're first starting out.
because you're hustling, right?
Yeah, you're working long hours, you're trying to build your business, you're always on.
And there's no separation between work and life.
Exactly. Your home is your office.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that, Gard and Betty, even though they're, pretty pro-freelancing,
Mm-hmm.
they acknowledge that, right?
Yeah, they do. They talk about the importance of setting boundaries
Right.
and taking time for yourself.
Absolutely. You have to be able to switch off.
You do. Otherwise, you'll burn out.
Exactly. And, another challenge is that depending on what you do, the market can be really competitive.
Oh, yeah. Competition is fierce in some fields.
Yeah. And that can drive down rates.
It can. And it can make it harder to find clients.
Right. And there's also this perception, right, that freelancing is just a way for companies to cut costs.
Yeah, that came up in the Reddit discussions.
Yeah.
The idea that companies are using freelancers to avoid paying benefits.
Right. Right.
And while that may be true in some cases,
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that many freelancers are able to command much higher rates than they would as employees.
Right. And they have more control over their work.
Exactly.
So it's not always a negative thing.
No, it's not. It's just something to be aware of.
Right. And then, the final challenge I think we need to talk about is the initial struggle.
Yeah, building a client base takes time.
It does.
And it can be tough, especially when you're first starting out.
Because you don't have that reputation. You don't have that network.
Right.
You're starting from scratch.
And, Solid Gigs mentions that it can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to really get established.
Yeah. And we saw similar numbers in some of the Reddit threads, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that happens overnight.
No, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right. Okay. So let's say someone's listening to this, they've heard all of the challenges,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still thinking about freelancing.
Yeah.
What are some things they should really consider before making that leap?
I think the first thing is to really assess your mindset.
Okay.
Are you self-disciplined?
Right.
Are you motivated? Are you comfortable with uncertainty?
Because this is a big one, right?
It is. Freelancing is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
You need to be able to handle the ups and downs.
Right. And you need to be able to, be your own cheerleader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to be your own boss, your own motivator, your own everything.
Right. And then the second thing, I think, is to really look at your skills.
Yeah, what are you good at?
What are you good at? What's in demand?
What's marketable?
Right.
And, a lot of the business.com articles talk about the importance of having a niche.
Right. Yeah.
Something that sets you apart from the competition.
Something you can specialize in.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to be able to be everything to everyone.
No, you're not. You need to focus on what you do best.
Right. And then the third thing, and this is something that we've talked about already, is to make sure you're financially prepared.
Yeah, have that safety net in place.
Absolutely.
6 months of living expenses is a good rule of thumb.
Right.
Just to give you that peace of mind.
So, if things slow down,
Mhm.
you're not panicking.
Exactly.
And then I think having a strong portfolio is really crucial.
Oh, yeah. Your portfolio is your calling card.
It is.
It's how you showcase your skills and experience.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
business.com, they even say, if you don't have a lot of client work yet, do personal projects.
Yeah, anything to show potential clients what you can do.
Right.
Build up that portfolio.
Exactly. And then networking.
Yeah, networking is so important.
It is.
Connect with other freelancers, go to industry events.
Be active online.
Yeah, be active online. LinkedIn is a great resource.
Absolutely.
There are so many online communities now for freelancers.
It's amazing. And then, one of the things that people are always asking about is pricing.
Oh, yeah, pricing is tough.
It is tough.
It's a balance between what you're worth and what the market will bear.
Right.
And, you don't want to undervalue yourself.
No, absolutely not.
But you also need to be realistic.
Right. And you need to make sure you're covering all of your costs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Your rates need to reflect your expenses and your benefit.
Absolutely. And then, it's not just about getting clients. It's about building relationships.
Oh, yeah. Relationships are key.
Yeah.
Happy clients lead to repeat business and referrals.
Absolutely. So treat your clients well,
Yeah.
deliver high-quality work, and communicate effectively.
Yeah, and be professional.
Absolutely.
Professionalism goes a long way.
It does. And then I think the final thing is to really understand the business side of things.
Yeah, be prepared to wear all those hats we talked about.
Your marketing, your finances, your taxes.
Yeah, it's all on you.
It is.
Yeah.
But, if you're prepared and you're willing to put in the work,
Yeah,
freelancing can be an incredibly rewarding career.
absolutely. Okay, so let's say someone's decided to take the leap.
They're going for it.
Yeah, they're going all in. What are some strategies for success?
Yeah, how do they make it work?
Well, I think one of the best pieces of advice I saw, and this came up in several of the sources, is to start freelancing as a side hustle.
Oh, yeah, dip your toe in the water.
Exactly. Keep your day job while you build your business. That way you have a steady income coming in.
You're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and you can test the waters, see if freelancing is really for you.
Right. And you can start building that client base, right?
Exactly. And another important thing is to establish a routine.
Oh, yes, structure is key.
It is. Even though you're working from home, you need to set regular hours.
Right. You need to treat it like a real job.
Exactly. Otherwise, you'll end up working all the time.
Yeah, and you'll burn out.
Exactly. And speaking of burnout, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Yes, self-care is crucial.
It is. Get enough sleep, eat healthy, exercise.
Take breaks.
Yeah, take breaks, get out of the house.
Absolutely.
And connect with other people.
Because isolation is real, right?
It is. And, networking isn't just about finding clients, it's also about finding support.
Right.
Connecting with other freelancers who understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, right?
Yeah. They do. They think it's all about the hustle.
Right.
But it's also about the community.
It is. And then I think setting realistic goals and expectations is really important.
Oh, yeah. Don't expect to be making 6 figures overnight.
Right.
It takes time to build a successful freelance business.
It does.
So be patient, celebrate the small wins, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right.
Yes.
And one thing that we haven't talked about yet is professional development.
Oh, yeah. You need to keep learning and growing.
Absolutely.
The freelance world is constantly changing.
It is.
So you need to stay up to date on the latest trends and technologies.
Absolutely. Take courses, go to workshops, read industry publications.
Yeah, invest in yourself.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And then, something that we always emphasize is to advocate for yourself.
Oh, yeah, know your worth.
Know your worth.
Don't be afraid to negotiate your rates.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to walk away from clients who aren't treating you fairly.
Exactly. You deserve to be treated with respect.
Absolutely. And then, having a professional online presence is really important.
Oh, yeah, your website is your storefront.
It is.
Make sure it's up to date and easy to navigate.
Absolutely. And be active on social media.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever platforms make sense for your industry.
Right.
Use them to connect with potential clients and build your brand.
Absolutely. And then, the boring but important stuff, taxes.
Yeah, taxes are unavoidable,
They are.
but you can make them less painful by planning ahead.
Right.
Set aside money throughout the year.
Right. And hire a good accountant if you need to.
Yeah, a good accountant can save you a lot of headaches.
Absolutely. And then retirement, right?
Yeah, you need to be thinking about retirement from day one.
It's so easy to put it off.
It is, but it's so important.
Absolutely.
Set up a retirement account, contribute regularly.
Yeah. And the earlier you start, the better.
Absolutely. And finally, I think the most important thing is to define your goals.
Oh, yeah. What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, what do you want your freelance life to look like?
Right.
What kind of work do you want to do?
How much money do you want to make?
How do you want to spend your time?
Right.
Having clear goals will help you stay focused and motivated.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the individual aspects of freelancing,
Mm-hmm.
but the world of work is changing so rapidly, right?
It is, yeah.
So how does that broader landscape impact freelancers?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is the rise of remote work.
Oh, yeah. The epidemic really accelerated that.
It did. And that's created a lot of opportunities for freelancers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because now companies are more open to working with people remotely.
Exactly. And it's also made it easier for freelancers to collaborate with each other.
Right.
You can work with people all over the world.
Absolutely. And, one thing that I found really interesting reading through the Reddit threads
Mm-hmm.
is that people's perception of risk is shifting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It used to be that, like, a traditional job was seen as this safe option.
Right.
But now, with all the layoffs and the economic uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to see freelancing as potentially more secure
Yeah, that makes sense.
because you're not relying on one employer.
Exactly. You have multiple income streams.
Right. And if one client dries up,
Mm-hmm.
you still have others.
Right. So it's a way to diversify your risk.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We've gone deep.
We have. And, the big question is freelancing right for you?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
And I think, as we've discussed, there's no easy answer.
No, it depends on your individual circumstances.
It does. Your personality, your skills, your financial situation, your goals.
Exactly.
But if you're looking for flexibility, autonomy, and the potential to create your own dream career,
Mm-hmm.
freelancing is definitely worth considering.
Absolutely. All right, so let's wrap things up. I think the key takeaway here is that freelancing is a complex and multifaceted career path.
It is.
It has its pros and cons, its challenges and rewards.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, the decision of whether or not to pursue it is a personal one.
It is.
There's no right or wrong answer.
No.
But hopefully, this deep dive has given you the information you need to make an informed decision.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the most important things is to really do your research.
Oh, yeah. Due diligence is key.
Read articles, talk to other freelancers, and really think about what you want your life to look like.
Yeah, envision your ideal freelance life.
Absolutely. And then, once you've made a decision,
Mm-hmm.
go for it
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to take the leap.
because you never know what you might achieve.
Exactly. And, here's a final thought for you to ponder as you continue your journey.
I like it.
In today's rapidly evolving world of work, where traditional notions of job security are being challenged,
Mm-hmm.
how do you define security for yourself? And what steps can you take to create that security, whether it's through freelancing, traditional employment, or some combination of the two?
That's a great question. And that's something for all of us to think about, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it helpful.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care, everyone.